I am a Christian. I am a Christian. As you might have realized, there are plenty of mentally deranged Muslims at Speaker's Corner. Clearly mentally deranged, and therefore we have come to help people out. We have come to help people out.
No, we don't need your help.
Where's Jesus now?
I am a Christian.
Where's Jesus?
I am a Christian because Jesus Christ is worthy in all sorts of different ways. Jesus is worthy to be followed. And therefore, I am a Christian. I look at history, I study evidence. In every single way, following Jesus is a sensible thing to do. In every single way. What I am thoroughly confused with is, in the course of my research, I find that Islam, on the other hand, is, we are working on this, but Islam is going to be soon declared as a mental health emergency across the world. Anyone who follows Islam, maybe over the next couple of years, we might be empathetic to your situation, depending on the brain damage level, and we may, similar to NHS, we may offer a Muslim mental health service. So over the next couple of years, you might receive mental health support. But beyond that, if you still insist that you will stay in your mental derangement, we might have to take other actions. I mean, who in their right mind would think burning a bunch of toilet paper is worthy of someone to be killed? Which other deranged people in the entire world would think like this? But clearly Muslims are terribly mentally ill that you think burning a bunch of toilet tissue is worthy of someone to be killed. All right, so I'm going to invite, you see, my dear friends, look at the number of Muslims out here. How many of you are Muslims, sir? How many are Muslims? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 Muslims. How about you, Muslim? 12, 13, maybe 14, 15. So there are about 15 Muslims here. And I'm going to ask you a simple question. Let's find out the level of mental derangement you have. For example, throughout history, from the very origin of Islam, Muslims seem to have this mental illness that they go around thinking everyone else's properties are theirs. Would you believe? Can you imagine someone knocking on your door where you live? Let's say where you rent or your house you own, and someone knocks on the door and suddenly you open and you find out someone shouting out, Allahu Akbar, Mullahu Akbar, this house belongs to me. I mean, what kind of mental illness will lead to this behavior? But this is what has happened right from the start of Islam's origin. What happened to Mecca, Masjid al-Haram? Which brave Muslim wants to come here and engage in a sincere conversation?
Where is your cow?
Please stay away, sir.
No, where is your cow?
You see, always confused. Always. Can you look at this gentleman? If you see him at Speaker's Corner, stay a meter away. Because he has been coming to the Speaker's Corner for many years, still looking for his cow. I've told him multiple times. His cow is Surah number 2 in the Quran. Al-Baqarah, it's right there. I've told him. Surah Al-Baqarah is Surah cow. I've told him multiple times, still confused. Who is the brave Muslim who wants to talk about the history
yes,
of what happened to Masjid Al-Haram. Which brave Muslim wants to come here? Clearly there are about 15, 20 Muslims here. You are mentally deranged too much, sir. Okay, come here, please. Please, other Muslims, try and help you out.
Where is your cow?
So,
Give me
Masjid,
answer.
you see,
Where
I
is
told
your
him.
cow?
Is he going to talk about Masjid Al-Haram anytime soon?
Your cow.
Can I?
No, we will come to
Where
next,
is
please.
your cow?
Masjid Al-Haram. Which brave Muslim wants to talk about Masjid Al-Haram?
Yes, I can talk.
You are a Muslim, sir.
It's not your business.
And none of my, you see, before I started, everyone were shouting, oh, I'm a Muslim, and how many hands went up?
Yes.
Now I asked the first question, and suddenly all Muslims have become Muslims because they haven't got a clue. They roam around like grown-up people, but have no primary education.
That's your brother.
They move around.
I am a follower
Excuse
of
me,
the
sir.
Lord Jesus Christ.
They roam around. They roam around like grown-up men. But they, at the very first question asked, they get confused. Excuse me, sir, please. If you want to stay there, that's fine. Stay there, stay there. Stay where you are, stay where you are. Thank you very much. We have much space for each other. You can stay where you are. Thank you very much. Now, Masjid Al-Haram. Do you know about Masjid Al-Haram, my dear
I
friend?
know, yes.
Yourself? Please come here. Let's try and have a conversation. Let's try and find out right from the first
Your cow.
real estate problem. Masjid Al-Haram. Right from there, let's try and unpack how Muslims have been having mental illness when it comes to other people's properties. They always seem to go everywhere and claim that everything belongs to them. And it all began with Masjid Al-Haram. I'd like to, are you a Muslim, sir? You are a Muslim. How old are you, sir? 30 odd, 40 odd. So grown enough to be able to have a simple conversation. Masjid Al-Haram is the very beginning of Islam. The real estate issue, the property issue, the property swindling by the Muslims of Masjid Al-Haram is the very first criminal act in Islamic history. Right from there, everything about Islam is one crime after another crime. Right the way through. It's criminality in terms of swindling other people's properties, criminality in terms of demonizing women, destroying the souls of women across the world. He cares about his delusional statements more than human beings. So which Muslims, sir? Masjid Al-Haram. Who wants to have a conversation? Any Muslim? So 20 odd people, and what have we got? I asked the first issue that the Muslims ever had. Have you heard of this problem at Mecca? Apparently, Muhammad had an issue with all idol worship and so on. It's all related to, according to them, Masjid Al-Haram, the first ever issue for Muslims. Yet, look at all these grown-up Muslims. None of them would have enough information to have an informed conversation. What does that tell you? Would you at least like to have an honest conversation? Please. All right, good. That's nice. Look, at the least you have one gentleman over here who I would consider to be less brainwashed than the rest of you lot. All right, sir, let me tell you this.
I want to insanity, humanity.
Wait. No. You just need to turn around and walk that way. You'll be fine. Now, coming to you, sir. So the claim is very simple. Muslims suddenly claimed out of the blue in the 7th century that Masjid Al-Haram, wherever it was, I'm not asking where it was, whether it was in Mecca or elsewhere is not the question, but suddenly Muslims claimed that that building belonged to them. Suddenly. And they said the current owners of the building do not deserve to own the property anymore. That's the fundamental claim. Can you imagine people showing up at your place, at your house, if you own a house, at your house, and suddenly saying, you don't deserve to own your house anymore? I will...
Have we heard what's going on in the West Bank?
No, stay focused right now. Excuse me, sir. I thought you were less deluded. I thought you were less deluded to have an intelligent conversation. Now, clearly, already the mental illness is showing up. That while we are discussing about Masjid al-Haram, about which you haven't got a clue, now you suddenly want to jump into West Bank as if you want to become the world's best swimmer. Now, let's continue talking about Masjid al-Haram. Can you imagine people showing up at your property, whether you own your property or you rent your property, showing up, knocking on the door and saying your property doesn't belong to you anymore? Can you imagine the level of mental illness it should take for people to do that? And that is exactly what the Muslims did right at the start with Masjid al-Haram. So please help me understand how, in relation to the claim, in relation to Masjid al-Haram, Islam is not a mental health issue. Please come here. Explain, sir. In other words, don't have a clue. Why did you jump to West Bank then? Why did you jump to West Bank when you haven't got a clue about the origin of Islam, sir?
Very similar to what's going on.
Exactly. You see, now, gentlemen, very good. Please come here. Let's talk about West Bank. All right, my dear friends, at the least, the gentleman here is now making the second sensible statement from the crowd, which is that he says the issue at West Bank sounds very similar. Very, very true. The mental illness of Islam did not stop at Masjid al-Haram. It has moved on all over the world today. It has gone to Israel, and it goes there and claims all of Israel suddenly belongs to me. Why? Because I am a Muslim and Islamic Allah says so. What sort of mental illness should people allow to sustain in themselves that it continues to spread for centuries? So please come here. Please come here, sir. Please come here. Please come here. West Bank. No, please. West Bank. Please come here, please. Please come here, please. Please come here. Please come here. West Bank. Please explain. Please come here.
Prophet Ibrahim
Come here.
Brother, listen, before you talk to him, the original claim that he made, ask him to provide his evidence.
Excuse me, sir. You are a Muslim. Don't have a clue. Please stay quiet.
Tell him first.
Come here.
To provide evidence of his claim.
Look.
I'd like to hear what this man said.
Yeah. Look. You are a Muslim, sir. He seems to want to have a conversation. Please come. Please come. So please.
I don't like to be on camera.
Don't worry, please. So explain to me. Masjid al-Haram. What happened? What happened?
So, the claim of Muslims is that Masjid al-Haram was the original house of worship for Muslims. So, for Muslims are people who submit their will to God, to the one true God. Right?
Excuse me. Islam is a religion.
That's supposed to be the original religion that has been passed down from the beginning to mankind all the way through, and has had various permutations, has come through the various prophets since Adam alayhi salam. Or Adam, peace be upon him, all the way down.
Good.
So the house, the Masjid al-Haram, is supposed to be the first house of worship that claims, well, we believe that Abraham built that house with his son Ishmael. So that's the house that's remained there, and it has been used as a house of worship for polytheists as well. Since then, Muhammad alayhi salam, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, peace be upon him, came to bring it back to its original purpose as the house of monotheism, of belief in the one true God, and the religion of Abraham and all the other prophets before him and since him. So that's the claim of what Masjid al-Haram is supposed to be.
I heard you. That's loud and clear. That's a standard narrative.
Yes.
Now, you understand, anyone can go around claim anything. For example, I may go around and claim I am the President of the United States. Now, when I claim such a thing, if I did claim, what would you say? You would say that something is wrong somewhere, because you know that is contrary to evidence. So this is where evidence now matters. Now, I'm going to ask you a poignant question. Please stay focused on the question. Very simply, according to history, Islam began to exist in the 7th century earliest, according to evidence. According to, let me finish. No, 7th century. Muhammad was supposed to have born in 670 AD and 570 AD. Yeah, sorry, 6th century. And yeah, you are right. So 6th century, 570 6th century. 7th century is when 610 his ministry began. 632 he passed away is the claim. And so 7th century is when Islam began to exist according to all evidence. Now you tell me, what evidence have you got to claim Abraham was a Muslim?
The Bible?
Please.
Well, there are I don't know the Old Testament very well, but from what I understand in the Old Testament, there are records there about Abraham and his family going into the Arabian Peninsula, and that's where there was a spring that came up there. It's the spring of Zamzam that we believe it is, and that's where the first house of worship was built.
What record do you have? One second. What record do you have for Abraham going into the Arabian Peninsula?
In what way? What do
you say? You said there is a record in the Bible that Abraham.
I don't know what the exact reference is.
No, there is. I know the Bible, and I can very honestly tell you, Abraham, according to all historical records in the Bible and elsewhere, did not go to the Arabian Peninsula. Contrary to that, you'd like to think he went there, and you'd like to think that Masjid al-Haram was built by him. So, what evidence have you got?
No, I don't know any other evidence about that.
You see, no, don't say any other. Don't say any other. You haven't given one so far.
Well, I just gave the biblical. Well,
okay.
account of that.
I can give you the Bible.
Which
book of the Bible? Which book of the Bible?
Like I said, I can't remember
the exact
reference.
If you don't, no, there's
I'm
no.
just saying that that's where I've heard that there is reference made to Abraham before the coming of Islam from the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. That's the other place that I know of, at least, that there is some reference made to Abraham having gone to the Arabian Peninsula.
My dear friend, here is where you need to
house.
Good, thank you. Here is where you need to really listen carefully. You are saying you don't know the Bible.
Yeah.
I am saying I do know my Bible, and I am saying there is no such reference in the Bible for Abraham going into the Arabian Peninsula. It doesn't exist. Unless you're going to show me where it exists, don't assume you've given me one evidence. You haven't given any so far. And this is where I'm going to insist, please. Remember, at the start, I said the mental illness. And you are a walking demonstration. No, this is very serious, my dear friend.
I mean, I
one second, let me finish. I know. It could be insulting. You know, if I said I am the President of the United States, and if you said I am a little bit ill, can I finish? Can I please finish? Let me finish, and then I'll give you time to respond. Whether you feel insulted or not doesn't determine if you have mental illness or not. Yeah? What determines if you have a mental illness or not is whether your ideas are consistent with evidential reality. That's what determines. So if you feeling insulted or me speaking in a particular way is irrelevant.
You could be wrong, but not mentally ill.
You are right, and that is where. One second. One second. Let me finish.
I don't know everything.
I'll finish something. I'll finish something, please, and then please. The gentleman is right. It's not just that one issue. If that is the only issue, I might excuse you. But believe it or not, every step of the way in Islam, every step of the way, it is the same story over and over and over again. Contra evidence, the entire religion is built. And that is where I am thinking, look, you can't have a person follow a religion thinking that it is going to lead him into eternity, where every single step of the way it's contra evidence. So I'm going to now give you time. So please, my dear friend, let me clarify what I said right at the start. Masjid al-Haram, the issue at Masjid al-Haram is at the very start of Islam. At the very start. If Masjid al-Haram story is bonkers, then Islam is bonkers. Islam has no merit whatsoever, regardless of everything else. And that is where I'm going to ask you again. What evidence have you got that anything was built in Mecca of today based on by Muslims? In your case, Abraham, you say Abraham. Speak about any other detail you want to speak about prior to the 7th century. Tell me how any shape of Islam existed before the 7th century.
So I don't have any direct references of any evidence before that. I'm just relaying to you what the Muslim understanding is of the history of that building.
What the Muslim claim is.
Yeah, sure.
Understanding.
It's the Muslim claim.
Exactly.
But,
Claim is not
I'm
understanding.
not a historian. I'm just here.
No, but this is
I
the
wanted
very.
well, no, I didn't come here to debate you. Initially, I just wanted to hear what you had to say about it. Sure. I'm not here to challenge you on it. So,
But
I was interested to see what you had to say about it and whether or not. I understand that you claim that there's no evidence that that building was ever built by Abraham. That Abraham was never near that part of Arabia at all in history.
So would you, can I please, no, I certainly appreciate you. So you saw the number of people who were surrounding earlier, and none of them had the courage to even engage in a sensible conversation like you, and I certainly commend you for that, and that is where I'm really a little bit hopeful about you. And may I please comment to you, my dear friend, I am a Christian. I believe in solid history about Jesus. I've done my research and so on. Now, and that is where I'm going to comment to you, my dear friend. So I asked about Masjid al-Haram. You then went on to West Bank, remember? And may I please ask you...
That was just the jab, because what you said about people invading people's homes and then claiming that they don't live there anymore and then excommunicating them. It's exactly what's happening to the Palestinians.
So let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. Let me ask you once.
Relating that to what the Muslims did with the Kaaba and everything, that's a different situation.
It is not. Would you believe it's the same situation, and I'll clarify why.
It's a different situation because, that's what's happened. That's like a historical event that happened where that building was made for a particular purpose, and it had been, that had been misused.
My dear friend.
And it was, and there was a battle of ideologies going on at that time.
Can I please clarify right now? Let me please clarify. I'm going to demonstrate to you that what happened in relation to Masjid al-Haram, wherever that was. I'm not even concerned as to where it was. Whatever happened in relation to Masjid al-Haram, the same delusional claims are the claims in relation to the Masjid al-Aqsa, which is built over the temple, the destruction of the temple of Jerusalem. The same problem. Not just Masjid al-Aqsa, but also, of course, the Dome of the Rock. And it's not just those two buildings, but the entire claim to the land of Israel. The same problem. Muslims, right at the start, did something to Masjid al-Haram, wherever that was, and they are doing that to Israel today, not just today, right throughout history. They have shown up there, and I'm going to ask you there, again, one poignant question. Do you have any evidence? You are a sensible man, and I'm really appreciative of you. Do you have any evidence whatsoever that connects any portion of Israel, today's Israel, any portion of today's Israel, do you have any evidence to connect that historically to people other than Israel, archaeologically? Any evidence, either archaeologically or literary history, any evidence whatsoever?
Okay, you're asking the wrong person. I'm not a historian, so.
But do you see, this is a very important point you need to consider, because if can you imagine? Let me ask you one, very relevant to you. Do you own a house?
Not currently. I'm looking.
But you'd like to, and let's say you rent a house, yeah. So you have your own home right now. If I knock on your home tomorrow, for example, of course, you return home tonight, this evening, and then tomorrow I show up and knock on your home, knock on your door, and say, "Hey, what's your name?" Okay, maybe I'll call you my friend. I say, "Hey, friend, this house doesn't belong to you. And you're like, oh, wait a second, I rent this property. You know, I have an agreement with the landlord, I rent this property. And I say, it doesn't matter. My Islamic Allah tells me, this house belongs to me now. You get out. If you don't get out, I'll kick you. Or I'll march on the street. From your left door to from your left wall to the right wall, it all belongs to me. What would you think?
Well, no, that would be unjust to do that. But
Exactly.
Is that what the Muslims did?
And that is where I'm asking you. This is where
I don't think
exactly that.
I don't think they excommunicated.
Please don't say anything. Please, may I please? You said you don't have evidence so far. When you don't have evidence, don't think. Evidence needs to be at the bottom.
Well, I'm talking about the history of what happened to, the Masjid al-Haram and what happened in Mecca after the conquest of Mecca, after the Prophet ﷺ, had gone to Medina and established, the Khilafah at that point. And then they had returned to Mecca and done so peacefully. And
What do you mean peacefully?
Peacefully, they didn't go in there. They didn't kill anybody. They didn't destroy homes or anything.
Let me ask you this.
They took Mecca back, obviously under Islamic rule at that point.
Let me ask you this something, please. If I in friendly terms, if I in a very friendly term today, but very clear to you, in a friendly term, I threaten you, enough to an extent tomorrow when I knock on the door, I have threatened you. The message is very clear. If I have threatened you enough, clearly, that tomorrow I knock on the door and make it appear as if it's friendly, and you look at me and you think, oh, this fellow is here, and I need to. Would that be good? So here is where the question. I'm going to ask a question. Please respond to my question. My dear friend, one second. Let me ask a question. Please respond to the question. Just 1 second. One second. My dear friend, 1 second.
You can't relate
Friendliness.
to what's going on
1
today.
second, please. Masjid al-Haram. 1 second. My dear friend, please. Unless we are focused, unless we have a focused conversation, it'll be a rant. Please, I'm going to ask again. Masjid al-Haram, when the Muslims took over, whether the Meccans in a friendly manner let that happen or not is irrelevant. The question is, who did that belong to? How did the Muslims suddenly think it belonged to them? And that is where friendliness, unfriendliness, without a fight, irrelevant. Question is, what evidence have you got that Muslims own that?
I'm saying that the Muslims claimed that was where the first house of worship was.
In other words,
and they're returning it back to its original purpose and its original rule. And at that time, they did it in the way that all nations were established at that time. It was through, there was, if a nation and another nation, if an empire was to spread, or if any sort of, nation was to spread, there was...
It's a religion of peace.
Exactly. You see the problem? The gentleman very sharply highlights a problem. What you've just said? You have just established that Islam is nothing from God, nothing to do with morality, nothing to establish the pinnacle, the very standard of what is morality, but is just like how any other military force would try to take over someone else's property. Please, my dear friend, my dear friend, here is where, which means Islam is not, which means Islam
has done that too.
No, my dear friend, Islam is not fit for purpose. It is not from God. It is merely like any other morbid hatred military regime trying to take over someone else's property. That's pretty much what Islam is. And that is where I asked you the
oversimplification of that, though.
But you haven't so far given any evidence, any whatsoever. And that is where I'd like to comment to you, when you go home, please, try and look up. If you still, take 10 hours, take 2 days, maybe take 1 week. But if you do not find any historical evidence, if you do not find dating prior to the 7th century, which will earmark Masjid al-Haram, wherever that was, as Islamic property, then you would need to concede and say the very basis of your religion is flawed. We spoke about Masjid al-Haram, I mentioned about Israel, but believe it or not, it didn't stop there. Would you believe? Muslims are walking around in our nation today, even including in our park right now, Speaker's Corner, deluded to think that every place of worship in the UK should be Islamic. Whether by hook or crook, they are determined to take over. We see the evidence of that, the ripples of this happening. Someone being killed just a couple of days ago in Sweden. Number of, some young boy folds a paper of the Quran up in somewhere near Sheffield, and then there is massive threats just a couple of years ago, a year ago or something. So today, Muslims are walking around with the same delusion, and I can show you where the delusion comes from. It comes from the Quran.
That's not all Muslims in the UK believe this, though.
So let me ask you a simple question. Do you as a Muslim think UK should become Islamic?
I don't care either way.
No, I'm asking, please, okay. So do you know what the Quran says about what should happen to the UK?
What should happen to the UK?
Yeah.
Specifically?
Yeah.
And the Quran doesn't mention the UK specifically.
Well, the Quran mentions about every Jewish and Christian settlement, and therefore which includes the UK.
If a people
Do you know
is
what?
peaceful towards Muslims, then we don't have any. There's no.
Excuse me, who are you to determine anything here? I'm asking you.
Well, no,
do
you're
you know
asking
what?
me a question, so.
Yeah, you know what I would answer? If I were following some other religion, I would say, well, this is your land, who am I? That's what I'd say. But do you know what you said? Right away. Good. Thank you. Keep away. Thank you much. So let me ask you. No, he doesn't. He has been suffering from COVID for many months. Look at him. Look at him. Suffering from COVID for how many months now? Is he going to answer?
I only came here I was interested to hear what you had to say about.
My dear friend, I would really.
I'm not I didn't come here claiming that I'm a knowledgeable Muslim or a knowledgeable historian that was going to be able to counter it.
Sure, brother. But my dear friend,
I just wanted to
My dear friend, can I please? Let me please tell you this very simply. Can I?
He will put the title about you, bad title about you, and he will show you badly. If you are not able to answer the question, if you don't have knowledge, you should leave, brother. Lead the other. Here you can see his video is just only a hate preacher, and that's it. Please go.
You see, so that gentleman, like I said earlier.
I've already said that I don't want to be on camera, that I don't want to have my face online, or
No. I said don't worry, and you were quite willing to have a conversation, based on which we went ahead. Please let me put it this way. If a religion, that gentleman over there, he's a troublemaker. We are keeping an eye on him. He don't align yourself with him, because any moment, maybe the next month or a couple of months from now, he might be in severe problem. Don't even align yourself with him. Can I please say something to you? Please, my dear friend. You follow a religion. You think the religion is going to give you eternity with God, but you did not have basic answers to some of the very fundamental building blocks of the religion. Now, another gentleman who is a regular at the park comes here, and instead of helping you out, what does he say? He just gives you a warning to make you move away. In other words, Islam does not have anyone who is knowledgeable at the park to answer fundamental questions. Can I please comment to you, when you go home, please find out answers for the questions I've asked you. Would you do that?
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Lovely. And
Are you a Christian or a Muslim?
one second. When you,
Are you a Muslim or a Christian?
excuse me, sir, please. I said, wait a second.
Christian
So,
or a Muslim?
do you have hearing issues? Please wait. So please,
Are you a Christian or Muslim?
lovely speaking to you.
Please.
God's blessings to you.
Speaking to you too.
Yeah, I'd like to just insist. I'd like to just. Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate. You are a lovely man, and I genuinely think you can leave the system of delusion. This is a mental illness. Sooner rather than later, I'm very honest with you. We are working on historical details. We are working on theological details. I have been studying this book for a number of years now, right now, working on a few different books. And we are working, I am personally working, and I know many others are working to get Islam categorized as a serious mental health emergency. And therefore, I'd really like to comment to you, my dear friend, please leave ASAP. But do your research. Based on reason, based on evidence, when you are convinced as to what I said is true, please. You can email. Can I give you my email address? Please.
You got a card, okay?
Yeah, I've got a card. Yeah, when you want to have a private conversation, don't tell anyone. To everyone else, your fellow Muslims say that you're not going to get in touch with me. But please get in touch, and it'll be nice to speak to you. God's blessings.
I'm getting in touch now.
It was a pleasure speaking to you. God's blessings to you. God's blessings to you.